In today's video, I'll be introducing a potential new way to look at modern-day Monarchs. Admittedly, it still feels like we're a few cards short of what this deck could be due to the lack of strong 2400 or 2800 attack and 1000 defense monsters. But this build at least tends to aim to solve some of the breaking problems and give you a deck that consistently functions, though that still has to be taken with a fat grain of salt for reasons I'll mention later on. Unlike my other videos, this deck doesn't have a lot of true combos to go through, so instead, I'd just like to walk you through the concept of the build while showing you how to use these new cards in a way that feels more appropriate to the modern climate. Now, we're going to start with Scheme, and Scheme is a spell card that reads send one Monarch spell trap from your deck to the graveyard, except Scheme. If this card is banished, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, add one monster with the same attribute but 2400 attack, 1000 defense from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Then, immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one Zaborg the Thunder Monarch, Mobius the Frost Monarch, Thestalos the Firestorm Monarch, Grandmarg the Rock Monarch, Rise of the Storm Monarch, Caius the Shadow Monarch, and you can only use this effective scheme once per turn. Now, the second card that we have here is the Eidos the Underworld Monarch, and actually before I read this, I would like to mention that that second effect in order to banish and then get an add is actually pretty relevant because there are a lot of dark and light monsters, and you can add yourself either a copy of Eidos, even Caius, or you can get yourself a copy of Majesty's Fiend. Eidos reads, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one Monarch spell trap or one monster with 2800 attack, 1000 defense from your deck or graveyard to your hand. You can declare one attribute, one monster on the field becomes that attribute. If you tribute summon a monster with 2400 or more attack and 1000 defense while this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand or special summon it. You can only use each effect of Eidos once per turn. So again, another very solid card that only takes one tribute, and that is what I would like to mention before I continue on, where this deck is really meant to focus on that one tribute aspect. As you saw, the secondary effect here says that you can add one monster with the same tribute but with 2400 attack and 1000 defense. Considering this is an archetype that has both 2400 and 2800, I'm almost inclined to believe that they were telling us to play the 2400s instead, which is why they made it this way. But we're going to continue here by activating the copy of the scheme in order to send away the prime. Use the effect of prime by banishing the scheme. We'll be able to tribute summon for our Eidos, and we'll be able to use the effect of the Eidos here. As you saw, it only took having the scheme in order to get our body, and that is without having to normal summon a body in order to do it, because previously you had to either summon Eidos, Idea, and if they got imperm, then kind of hurt you. But we're going to continue here by adding another copy of scheme, and then we can use the effect of scheme again, since that part isn't a hard once per turn, sending away the pantheism. Use the effect of pantheism, and from here you can add whatever you want, but for the video I'm just going to add culmination. And culmination of the Monarchs is a continuous trap that reads once per chain, if your opponent special summons a monsters and you control a tribute summon monster, you can banish one Monarch spell trap from your graveyard, then activate one of these effects. But you can only use each effect of culmination once per turn. Destroy one monster on the field, destroy up to 2 spell traps on the field, discard one random card from your opponent's hand, destroy one face down card on the field, place one card on the field on the top of the deck, and banish one card on the field. So basically the OG Monarchs wrapped into one trap card here. Because it's once per chain, it's not something that you're locked into once a turn, and this gives you multiple disruptions. So we do have 2 spell traps that can be banished, giving us 2 disruptions off of those 2 cards. Now for this next combo, we'll be using the last 2 new cards that we'll be getting in Duelist Advance, and this one reads, discard one card, reveal 3 monsters with 800 or 2400 or more attack, and that's just worded so weird, but in 1000 defense from your deck. Your opponent chooses one for you to add to your hand, and you send the rest to the graveyard. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn after this card resolves. So another card that locks you into no extra deck, which is why there's 0 in the extra deck, and you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon one monster with 800 attack, 1000 defense from your hand. You can only use each effect of Rebellion once per turn. The second card that we have here is Tessera, and this is a level 1 light warrior monster that reads, you can reveal one Monarch spell trap in your hand. Special summon this card from your hand. During your main phase, you can immediately after this effect resolves, tribute summon one monster. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one monster with 800 attack, 1000 defense from your deck. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn. You can only use each effect of Tessera once per turn. Continuing that theme there of no extra deck, but the really nice thing about this card here is that you can special summon it by revealing a Monarch spell trap trap, but not just that. You'll see that instead of using that effect, we're just going to get its graveyard effect by pitching it off for the copy of Rebellion, which will then be able to net us the copy of the Eidos. And keep in mind, you can get whatever level 6 that you want here, or rather, I should say 800 or 2400 or more attack. But typically, you are going for a tribute summon here, as we're now going to be able to send away the other two copies of Eidos, and this is just to ensure that we do get it. On top of that, by tribute summoning for the Eidos, we'll see that we'll be able to get the other copy back to our hand. But we're now going to special summon out the idea off of the copy of the Tessera in the graveyard, and this will give us the ability to bring out the Eidos. Get the Eidos effect for that extra summon, as we'll then be able to tribute it off in order to bring out our bigger Eidos. Now use the effect of Eidos in the field and graveyard. We can chain block the Eidos like this as well, which is really nice, but we'll get the Eidos back to our hand. We'll then be able to add a copy of the Tenacity, and then we can activate the Tenacity. This will be able to add us whatever spell trap from the Monarch archetype that you want, and we're just going to add ourselves another copy of Scheme. Keep in mind that at this point, if your hand is different, you can add whatever you need to make that stronger, and this is where I say that it's hard to make a combo video for a deck like this, because it really does depend on what's in your hand, and sometimes adding something to help fortify your end board is just much better off. But we're going to continue here by activating the Scheme again, as we're then going to be able to send the Pantheism. Use the effect of Pantheism. This will be able to add ourselves the copy of Culmination. Then we can set the copy of Culmination, and again, this is just one of those spots where if you're to get something like the Escalation instead, and then you have something like Majesty's Fiend or Vanity's Fiend in the hand alongside a copy of the Monarch Stormforth, and that's just better to go for overall. But with that, I'll take you on to the next one. Now, for this next combo, I'm going to be showing the Rebellion alongside the Pantheism, and I say combo, but these have been really short, as we're going to add ourselves the copy of Majesty's Fiend this time around. If we do get the Eidos, we're just getting another copy of Culmination, and I don't want to do that again. This time around, I just want to show you that we're get our power card here, and the most important part about this is the fact that you're able to get a Floodgate online by just having access into very few cards in your deck, and also a lot of cards in your deck that can get you into them, whether it be hard drawing your Majesty's Vanities alongside the Scheme, or whether you get something like the Rebellion alongside a proper discard. But we're going to now be getting ourselves the Prime in the graveyard off of Scheme, and use the effect of Prime banishing the Tenacity, tribute summon for the Fiend, and now our opponent has to get over this. And keep in mind, this is where going first, if this is all you have, this can be very weak, and I did make some decisions, and I added on the options list that you'll see in the deck profile to circumvent some of this. But with that, I'll take you on to the next one. So up until this point, the entire video has been to show that you can play by just getting a one tribute summon off instead of having to play the bigger Monarchs, potentially bricking on them. On top of that, I've also shown that you have more spells to up the consistency of seeing those extra bodies to make sure that you don't brick on those tribute summons. But we're going to start here with the copy of Domain Scheme. We also have the Sloth, which you'll see is not in the finalized list. I still think that there is a place to play the three of it. I just don't know if I want to yet or not. It's something I'm definitely going back and forth on. But then we have the Tessera alongside the Tenacity, and we're going to start this one by activating the copy of Scheme. This will be able to send away the Pantheism. We'll then activate the Pantheism in the graveyard, getting ourselves the copy of Rebellion. We'll then activate the Rebellion, pitching away the copy of Tessera, much like we did before. Get ourselves the copy of the Eidos, while also sending the Majesty's Fiend and the copy of Eidos to the graveyard. At this point, it's likely that you do get the Eidos, because I don't think that your opponent is just going to give you a Majesty's Fiend. But we're going to continue here by then activating the effect of Tessera, and then we can special summon out the Idea. Now we can use the effect of the Idea to get ourselves the copy of the Little Eidos, use the effect of Little Eidos for that extra summon, activate the copy of Tenacity to get ourselves the copy of Escalation. Now we can tribute summon off for our Big Eidos, as we'll use the effect of Big Eidos as Chainlink 1, use the effect of Idea as Chainlink 2, use the effect of the Eidos in graveyard in order to get itself back as Chainlink 3. From here, we'll be able to get ourselves the copy of Pantheism and the Eidos to our hand, as well as another copy of the Prime or I should say a copy of Prime, not another, will then be able to activate the Pantheism here. And keep in mind, you could have gotten yourself something like the continuous spell that protects you from targeting and destruction, or you could have gone with something like the culmination. The only reason that I'm doing the time is to show what two cards that we get. So normally you would be getting something like the continuous spell or the culmination. Here we're just going to draw two cards. We do see the return of the Monarchs, which I did end up cutting. I'll go over why later on in the deck profile, as we're just going to activate it here. Tribute summon for the Sloth. This will give us a pseudo domain lock. The reason why I thought of playing the Sloth is because it gives you a second domain lock that if you do have the field spell up and you have two tribute summon monsters like you do now, it means that your opponent can't out it so easily. So we're now going to be able to activate the domain, then we'll set the escalation, and at this point we can pass to our opponent. And it's important to note that with the escalation set, we have the ability to tribute summon for the Majesty's Fiend on our opponent's turn and potentially lock them out of using any monster effects while also not being able to get into their extra deck because of cards like Sloth and the domain. With all of the replays out of the way, we can get onto the deck profile. I decided to play 3 of all the powerful spells that we have now. I believe that if the deck were just its spells alone, it would probably be one of the best decks in the format if, again, spells were the only things that we could use. I did mention that we were lacking 2400, 1000, or 2800, 1000 strong monsters that you would really want to go into. Right now, we really just do have Eidos and the Majesty's Fiend. Unfortunately, the Vanity's Fiend is 2412. But I would like to point out that because we do play the Escalation and we have the Stormforth, you could end up playing cards like the Caius alongside the Ryza and the Thestalos in order to removal or just a hand rip going second, or you can use them going first as well, which will be more relevant if we get Justice Hunters and we see cards like the K9 and Dragontail that can bring out cards turn 0. One thing else that you'll notice about this deck is that when you aren't seeing Engine, you're seeing Floodgates or just your removal and Fenrir. It's a blessing and a curse, really, because you're able to protect the castle with your Floodgates. It can get really bad for your opponent. Some decks are just completely shut down by it. Because of the slow nature of the deck, it also gives your opponent time in order to draw potential cards like Droplet that can get over Floodgate monsters, and that can also be a problem as well, which is why I point to cards like Solemn Judgment that you may want to side. There's also cards like Salesband that can help you play around problematic hand traps, mainly Ash really, which can still be kind of a bummer to this deck where you have the Pantheism and the Rebellion, which both want to discard in order to add. So that's another area where the deck can still feel pretty weak and still feel like we need more cards in order to really help reinforce this strategy. And you'll also notice that I'm not maining the Return, and the reason I'm not maining the Return is because we have the copy of the Rebellion. It just gives us the ability to search our monsters while also being one of the main cards that we want to play in order for this strategy to kind of work. You'll also see that we have the Roto, which can be used to search either one of these guys, which I don't think is necessary because once you see your Tessera, you can get that into the graveyard. It just means you can get out your Adia and then get yourself to the Eidos and continue from there. The K9 and Dragontail cards will probably come into this deck once they come out in Justice Hunters, but until then, I just want to show them here. If you're testing it on your own, then there's options here for you. But then, of course, there's the Erebus, the copy of Aether. I chose not to play these cards because the minute that you bring in the Aether alongside the copy of Erebus and start committing to the copy of Domain, and you start playing a lot more bricks in the deck, I'd much rather just be able to summon off for a 1 tribute monster that gets me into a little bit of my engine and potentially supplement it with other cards like the Fenrir, potentially and hopefully see some of the Floodgates, have the copy of Stormforth alongside the Escalation for the removal, and little things like that. Now, of course, if you don't want to play these 3, then you can play the 3 copies of Sloth as a safer option and some insurance for your domain. then the Solemn Judgment, the Harpies, and the Charmy. I think that these cards are mandatory for the side deck as you want to be able to skip your opponent's turn through the Charmies, protect your stuff through the Solemn, and then you really want destruction removal overall with your side deck, having cards like Harpy's Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, and things of that nature. But anyways, if you made it this far into the video, I thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them down below. It's Bones, signing out.